Okay, let's continue with the stories. So, the phone hacking. All right, so I don't know about the phone hacking. It was really weird. I had an SD card in here, and as soon as my daughter's boyfriend took the SD card out, the phone was fine. So, I think it was that card. I don't know anything about the shit, so I don't know. But what I used to do on purpose is I was like, if the police or whoever's in my phone, like looking for stuff, I would, so I would do it just for them. I would put it in my notes, and, my daughter would say, well, nobody's doing this to you, and, they're not going to bother with you and check out. And I'm like, they do it to everybody. It's like people just not aware. But anyway, so I used to write notes. Like I did it at every work. At every workplace, like I had my little notepad on my phone, and like every single time I got a bad vibe or something would happen, I'd make a little note. So I started doing it at Lost River, because after Deer Park, I was like, I'm going to start keeping track of all this bullshit. But Lost River was weird. They were like saying like little things like they knew about me, like, oh, is she sensitive? Like they'd mention, it was like direct. They'd talk about somebody else, but it was like direct. It's like directed conversation. Like, oh, is she sensitive? Like they're all standing around. Is she sensitive? Are you sensitive? And I'm like, wow. I was like, well, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I just said that, and like they would just say these little things, and then they kept on asking me, are you all right? Are you all right? Are you all right? Like, I don't know what was the look on my freaking face that made them think I wasn't all right, but they would always be like, are you all right? Are you all right? And I was like, oh, I was like, what's going on? So, where was I going with this? Oh, the spiritual stuff at Stalker Hill. So, if you're not open minded about this stuff, then don't listen and don't judge me. I'm just telling a story. I don't have nothing, I have no idea what it's all about. I'm just saying what I experienced. So, So I was going to the cemetery because I like old cemeteries, and so in Woodstock there's like one side that's really, 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 really old. Okay, and then it goes like medium in the middle. All right, so it's old but not that old. And then you get the other side, like the left side, it's like all new people. So I was walking around, and I was just fixing some of the some of the graves. There was this little grave. I think her name was Betty. I don't know. I felt bad. It was like a little angel, and she was like knocked over in the ground, and like weeds grew around her, and you could tell nobody had like taken care of this lady's grave stone or area for a while. So I just cleaned up the weeds a little bit. She only had like a little tiny, little tiny headstone, and so I cleaned up around. I fixed the statue and just made it look nice. And I think she did have like one flower that was weirdly growing. Like it just was like this neglected flower, but it was still surviving. And I would just go around and look at the names and stuff. But I don't know. I'm thinking maybe the spirits liked me because like there was like a moth episode for a while. And you know what they say about the moths? Like they do say moths are like spirits and they come to visit you. But anyway, so I had this like big moth episode when I first like lived there. Like all these moths kept on coming and coming to my apartment. Like all these like really cool moths were just like there. Like every day I'd come out and there'd be like another moth, and it was just amazing. I loved it. I was like, okay, I don't know if you're spirits, but this is great. So, so we're visiting Holly. Holly came, and she's like, she likes that too. So I'm like, you want to go check it out? So we go across, and there's a fireman there. It was really sad, and they have like a bell, so you can ring the bell for him. And then there's this little girl. I forget her name. I don't know. We looked it up, but there's this little girl that it's really, really sad. She went to a horse show, and I don't know how old she was, but she fell off the horse. Imagine that, going to a horse show and having a great day, and then your daughter falls off a horse, and I'm so sorry. So it's like a really, really beautiful headstone, like all marble or whatever, and they had her little sandals there. I'm like almost gonna cry. It's like little sandals and like all her little things, like stuff for the beach. I don't know. All these little trinkets are on there, right? So that one really affected us. Like Holly and I, we were like, oh my God, let's look it up when we get back. So we look it up and we find out her story, and we're like, oh my God. So Holly leaves, and like I'm laying there, I'm laying there in bed one morning, right, and the door opens by itself again, and it just opens, right, and it always happens. So I started putting benches in front of the door, and so I'm laying there, and I'm like, oh, the door opens. I'm like, oh God. So I close the door, and I'm like, lay back down, and I'm laying there, and there's no wind or anything. There's no windows open, and I have this old music box that like you literally like I hadn't played it in years. I have never cranked it. It has a switch on the side that you have to put it on in order for it to play music. So you crank it, then you turn this little metal lever to make it play. Well, the thing is so old, and I haven't played it for a really, really long time. And after the door opened and I laid back down, all of a sudden the music box on the windowsill started like playing by itself for a few minutes. And I was like, oh my God, that's weird. So I thought it was her. I was like, well, maybe it's the little girl and she likes my music box. I don't know. I don't think I'm weird, but this is what happened. The music box started playing by itself. Okay. After the door opened. So I was like, oh, so I thought it was her. So I said, hi. I said, you like my music box? I just talked to him. I don't know. I'm weird. So I said, hi. I said, you like my music box? That's okay. And then it never happened again after that. But yeah, that happened. But it was like the moth episode where I had like a billion moths all the time coming to my door, and it was so, I did have some little friends there. I had a little chippy friend, and I waited for him to come out of his hole like all winter, and he finally came out. And I think Stanley didn't like me having any like friends. He didn't want me to have a chippy friend, and I don't know. I don't know what's up with that place. And I had a frog. I had a frog that was at my light every night. I'd come home and there's the frog. I had a couple frogs that were hanging out there. And I was like, oh my God, I have frogs. This is great. Because I hadn't seen any frogs in a long time. So when the frogs started showing up, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Any little critter that I could make friends with, because I had no friends up there, all right? I had no support system. These are all strangers around me, all right? I never got to see my kids unless I went all the way down there, and what else? I don't know. I'm rambling. Yeah, that was another thing. Like Tiffany was saying, I never went to see my kids. I was like going down there like every other weekend. You know how much money that costs to go down there back and forth when you're broke? Yeah. And your truck is freaking old. Yeah, I was going down there like, I was trying to go down there at least like twice a month. And the girls at Deer Park knew that, what I was going through. That's another thing, Deer Park. I think I might do a video. I might do a video about Deer Park and their analysis of me. their their what do you call it? I don't know. The things they wrote about me to the company, whatever they wrote. I have the paperwork. I might do a video about that because it's pretty funny. When they kept on bringing me into like ambush meetings, like so they bring me in to like devalue me in their meeting, and for the most part, Mindy was always like really nice. But she always sided with Cassie no matter what Cassie said. But I think she knew. I don't know. It's if two people are there for a wicked long time, they're not going to support the person that's only been there for a short period of time. Okay, they're both gonna be together. The people that have stayed there a long time. But that's another story. So I might start talking about Deer Park. I don't know. Okay, bye.